Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today a new series in my stamp set series featuring Lawn Fawn's Totally Awesome stamp set. And welcome back to my subscribers. If you have yet to subscribe, please consider it, as you will be notified when new videos go up on the channel and you won't miss any of them in the series. I started by stamping out my images and figuring out a color guide. I will have that color guide listed on my blog post, so if you are interested, the description box, it will be linked below. I stamp everything, color everything off screen because, yeah, coloring takes me a while. And then I had already done the distress spray stain on some cardstock for my cattail borders. So I will start by cutting out my bases and all of my things. I did use the Brother Scan and Cut for all of my images. And, you know, those cattail borders. So because my pieces were bigger than I needed them to be, I kind of strategically placed them while die cutting so I could get 2 borders out of each of my pieces of paper there. I had also cut an extra piece of cardstock in just a plain white heavyweight scrap for the platform pop-up piece. I will save this to use as a cutting guide in future cards as well, but this way it just kind of gives me, because this one it's got that border on the top, I can't use the platform pop-up base die to get that front piece cut. I'm just using that white piece as my guide, and it kind of helps, being that it has the score lines, I can kind of see where the scores are going to be. So if it fits with where my cattails are sitting, or where the folds are going to have to go for the cattails, because I wanted the cattails on the sides or on the angles, not on that flush front piece. And then I will have to put some score lines in here. So I'm going to grab my scoreboard. And the scores on these, it's easier if you score everything from the 1.5 inch mark. So for some, I'm guessing that center piece there is a little bit off on your, like, it must be like something and a 1/16 of an inch. So it never lines up on my scoreboard just right. So I find if I use that 1.5 inches, I will just redo this one to make sure that I'm on the right one. So the 1.5 inches there works perfectly for each of those sides. So each side there is 1.5 inches. I just flip it over the other way so I can get my score on both ends properly, and then I don't have to worry about that funky measurement in the middle. And because I didn't think ahead on this one that I was going to need the backside colored on my colored pieces, I'm going to take that yellow-green combo that I used on my other cattails and then just color in the backside of this one. So those pieces of cardstock that I cut the cattails out of were 100-pound accent opaque smooth cardstock. It's what I use for my card bases. So I have a stack sitting here because I cut a whole bunch of different sizes, and those were my leftover pieces from, I think, my slim lines. And I just used some distress spray stain. Jamie can't talk today. In Forest Moss, and then Flickering Candle in the mica spray stain to color those. I added a little bit of water probably before I did the spray stain, and then I did the spray. They were super fast, super simple, super easy. It really only took me a little bit. And then because when I do the spray, I do them in, I just bought one of those plastic dish tubs from the dollar store. It's smaller than you get at the regular store, but it works beautifully. And then I take the rest of the stuff that's wet and sitting in there, take a paintbrush and paint it on one of the extra sheets. I think I did 2 of them spray stained. The third one is just painted on with the leftover overspray ink from my spray box because, you know, I like to use all of that media stuff that is sitting there. Well, it didn't pay to go to waste when, you know, I could get another sheet out of it. I am going to zoom through putting this together because if you are watching to figure out how to put the platform pop-up together, please refer to probably the goat. I want to say it's the goat one. My goat platform pop-up, which was my first one, which is closer to real time, and or go watch Kelly Marie's video on the Lawn Fawn YouTube channel, as her introduction to the platform pop-up has, I would imagine, a real-time video. It's the one that I referred to the first time or two that I put it together. And then I will add, I'm going to cut this back piece here to cover up because I'm using a piece of paper for my card base that it's an Echo Park destination route 12 by 12 sheet. Because that piece has the planes on the back of it, and I really didn't think that one through when I picked out, I liked the blue. It matched my blue that I had picked for my color map. I didn't pay attention to the planes on the back of it. And of course, in the platform pop-up, you're going to have that border on the front or the back. Yeah, the front of the back side of your platform is going to be sticking out there. So I'm just going to use another piece of that cattail paper or cattail border cut and cut that out for on there. So I used the platform pop-up add-on to cut that out. It gives me the score lines and all the things. But because it's an open die, I could wiggle my cattails on the top side of it, so I didn't have to worry about them getting cut off. And then I'm going to add my middle piece in here. If you catch it, you're faster than I am. But I'm going to add that middle hill in there, or tab, I guess. I don't use T's. T's to me, at least for that middle piece, I like it to be a little sturdier. It probably won't need to be, but you know. In my head, it's faster than cutting another T. So I'm going to try adding on my back here. And I think because of the grass on that cattail borders, it was getting caught on. And because I have my middle piece there goes kind of edge to edge, it gets caught there. So I end up snipping off just a little bit on each side. I think the blades of grass were interfering with each other there. And that was the point that I noticed, oh, because my platform pop-up paper or my hill paper is not double-sided blue dots. Yeah, I have an airplane piece on the front to my platform pop-up. So I ended up cutting out another hill, cutting it down to about the same width, and because I don't have it flush on, or I don't have the adhesive all the way up to the top on that center piece, I could wiggle this one down. So it fixes my little oops there, and my box is saved. Otherwise, I was going to have to pull it apart. And yeah, we all know how that goes, right? Yeah, liquid adhesive does not pull apart. But alas, it worked. So I'm just going to trim this one off as well. It was still getting stuck a little bit on that side. And then I will burnish this down a little bit better so it does stay, making sure that glue and that double-sided adhesive are sticking well before I pop this back up. And then because I didn't think ahead, I did not add my little cattails on the tops there before I put that backdrop in. So, you know, I like to do things difficult. Not the easiest way. I don't know if it was difficult. It just was, you know, probably would have been easier to add the little cattail tops before I put the backdrop on the platform pop-up base. So I will add those here. And then once I am done with that step, my actual platform pop-up is finished. So it is just time for me to decorate it and or create my totally awesome scene. Okay, I was being punny. I'm sorry. And because it's a platform pop-up, I realize the camera and it don't go along the greatest. So I'm going to try to make sure I angle it so you can actually see. Sometimes I forget. So I'm going to figure out kind of where I'm thinking for some of my things and go from there. And I realized, yeah, it's probably going to be easier to add my images to my bases before I add my bases to my little hills or pond waves. It must be windy in the pond today. There's little hills or little waves in the pond today. I'm going to come in with that glaze, Jelly Roll Glaze black pen. It gives that slightly raised but glassy black finish to their eyes. And yes, I remembered to do it before I was done today. And then because that one that's jumping in the water, I can put his little, is it a foot? Is it a hand? Frog leg? His little froggy leg can go into where that little T goes, and it looks like he's actually entering into the water that way. And then I will just continue to build the scene. So these little baby frogs are from the Beary Rainy Day stamp set. I don't remember if I told you, but this is why I bought the Toadally awesome set. Was those baby frogs were so stinking cute in that other set that I needed the big frogs so I could have a whole frog family. Mama frog, Papa frog, and little baby frogs. Because they're cute. So let me know if there's any other stamp sets you would like me to do a series on. I can't promise that I own them or that I will do a series on them, but I'm always up for suggestions and see what I can do. Let's see. As I build the scene, what else should we discuss? Let's see. I posted some new calves on my Instagram feed. So if you follow me on Instagram at Inky and Scrappy, you will have seen those. There's a new baby bull and a new baby cow, or a heifer. So I got to actually feed those this morning. I used to take care of the calves all the time. But now that the boys are bigger, and after I had multiple surgeries and I couldn't do it for a while, the oldest one kind of took that one over, and then the littlest one, well, he's not really little, he's taller. I'm the midget at 5'6". I'm the midget. He took over feeding the baby calves for the most part, but he was helping this morning, his father this morning, so I ended up feeding calves. So you will get to see the picture of them on Instagram if you follow me there. They're so cute. The little boy was super tiny. His mama was a heifer, so it was her first calving. The little girl was from a heifer. Was she from a heifer or from a cow? She was from a cow, so it's not the first one. So usually after a cow has, or a heifer has a calf, they're considered a first lactation cow. But usually second lactation cow. So after she's had two calves, they usually tend to be a little bit bigger than a first lactation calf. So, which is probably a good thing because, I'd rather have a little baby first time than a big baby. Just saying. Not that it always happens that way, but a lot of times it does. So now I'm trying to decide what to add to my box for my sentiment. I probably could have added the sentiment onto that strip before I added it to my platform pop-up, but I wasn't really planning this one aside from I wanted to use the cattail border all the way around the front of the box. Yeah, I don't always think sentiments to me a lot of times are an afterthought. sometimes I, include them in my initial plan, but not a lot, because this time I wanted to play with that cattail border and adding it to the platform pop-up box. And so that's where my mind was probably focused, and I didn't give it a second thought on putting a sentiment on the card. So, then we have to figure this one out as an afterthought. I did place a little bit of double-sided adhesive on the backside of that piece of grass to get it to stick to my Misty without having to try to put it in the corner and use the magnet, because let's be honest here, that magnet was not going to stick to the grass and let me stamp it very well. So I did stamp it. I did treat it with some anti-static powder, used some Versamark ink to stamp it on, and then I actually pulled out some Ranger Fine Detail Black embossing powder. You know how I and black embossing powder do not go together very well? This stuff actually worked really well. I was quite impressed, because yeah, my other black, it must be a thicker embossing powder that it doesn't give me that good crisp sentiment that I like, and so this one did the trick. I will say I was pleasantly surprised. And so I'm just going to add this grass on. I didn't want to take away from the front of my box by adding a square of different paper on there, and that's where that grass decided to come into play, because I figured this would just add a little bit more visual interest to that green there. And of course I can stick the little frog hopping into the grass, and I did pop up that front piece with some very thin foam tape, and then we will pop it all the way in, and there is the completed platform pop-up box for my first card in 4 on my Totally Awesome Stamp Set series. And of course we couldn't be done without a little bit of glitter and a little bit of glossy accents to alt the eyes. And there is the completed platform pop-up card, completing my first one in 4 series for the Totally Awesome Stamp Set. Thank you so much for watching. Keep getting inky, and we will see you next time.